Good evening once again, and welcome to Doc on Call. It is Tuesday, of course, the 25th of January, and we have with us this evening, as always, Dr. Sonia Nixon. And this evening we're discussing arthritis. It's a very, very common chronic condition, and it's something that many people do have problems with. So let's welcome Dr. Nixon. Doc, good evening and welcome again. How are you?
Thank you. I'm fine, thank you. Probably having arthritis tonight, but you know, it kind of cold these nights. You know, my friend told me on Sunday, I think it's going to rain, boy, my wrist and my knee hurting me. So, and it did rain. So a lot of us know about the weatherman inside of us that tells us,
But Doc, on a serious note, is there any truth? I mean, we've discussed this on We Culture a lot, and people say, look, they can tell you, when rain is going to come. I mean, is there any truth in this?
Yeah. Pass the barum, let me sap my knee. It's going to rain.
All right.
It's because of the change in the barometric pressure, the pressure in the atmosphere. Mm-hmm. It does ignite the pain, especially in people with osteoarthritis, like we grandmother and them. And since we all got to the age of grandmotherhood, is our turn. So I tell my friends, you guys have become your grandmother.
Well, I tell you what, I'll assist the birthdays for a bit. Because
take them every 10 years, yeah.
yeah.
So the truth is that arthritis is a chronic condition, and like you said, and chronic diseases are those that, they remain with us for a very long time. Often you don't have a vaccine to prevent them. Mm-hmm. They're due to lifestyle. Not all forms of arthritis, but those are chronic conditions. It's actually the most, and if you change your lifestyle, you can probably avoid at least contain the severity, and you also can feel better by lifestyle change, what we eat, what we do, and all the rest. Mm-hmm. But it is the most common chronic disease. Everybody have pain. You ask, Lord, miss my back hurting me, miss my rib hurting me. Even children in school, we have arthritis. Mm-hmm. And just for general knowledge, itis at the end of a word means inflammation. Whatever. Mm-hmm. Right. So, colitis, that the bowels are inflamed, the large bowels, arthritis,
the joints,
otitis, right? Mm-hmm. Internal, the air, and so it goes on. Dermatitis, your skin is inflamed, whatever. It's just that itis means an inflammation, and that inflammation can vary from something very simple to something that's crucial, that's severe, and cause a lot of discomfort and lead to very serious situations.
Mm-hmm. Is there a difference? I've heard my grandmother, well, of course, when she was alive, speak about rheumatism. Is there a difference between rheumatism and arthritis?
Regular old arthritis. Well, they're different. First of all, they're different kinds of arthritis. Mm-hmm. We can look at the big ones. The big one that we all know about is osteoarthritis, where the joints hurt. They might get a little swelling, but they just hurt. Mm-hmm. And the swelling takes long. And we look at it, especially we tend to have a lot of arthritis in the knee. Mm-hmm. So people's knees get swollen, but it's not like swelling like if you have water in a balloon. It's long-standing chronic swelling. A little bit of warmth, and sometimes you have deformity of the joints because that's osteoarthritis, the one that when you wake up in the morning you can't move, and then by 12 o'clock you could run a marathon. That's osteoarthritis, which has to do mostly with damage to the cartilage, to the what we call the gristle.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Bone,
mm-hmm.
which acts as a shock absorber and which enhances movement. So once you have enough fluid between the joints and the gristle intact, you don't have a problem. But sometimes that gets inflamed and starts deteriorating. Sometimes just because your grandmother has had it, because your mother has had it, mm-hmm. because osteoarthritis is familial, and also because of you drink, you smoke, you do things that will cause damage to your body. You don't eat well. We buy fast food instead of eating fish, including fish oils in our food, appropriate vitamins and stuff. And so the cartilage starts breaking down. And what happens when it breaks down? Try to move two rock stones over each other. two jagged rock stones, because the bone also gets damaged and is no longer smooth. So that nice smooth cartilage or the gristle, as you think about a chicken leg, and if you have a chicken leg and thigh, and how easy they move. Once you remove that piece of gristle over it, you really can't move the joint. And that's the same thing that happens with when you have arthritis. So there's that. And you know, we have it in our hands, we have it in our knees, we have it especially in the big joints, and it might move, right? But sometimes just one joint is affected. There's that. And then we have what we call rheumatoid arthritis. Rheumatoid arthritis is a little different. It's not as prevalent, but it means it's not existing as many people, but it does exist. Rheumatism had to do with damage to the tissues that line the joint, so they become inflamed. And what you have, so you could have like cystitis, where the synovial joint is inflamed, and you have a lot of fluid in there, right? But rheumatoid arthritis has another challenge in that it tends to have other systemic things. So you might feel fever. Sometimes you might feel fever. Sometimes you have fatigue. Most people tend to have fatigue. Rarely just this constant, I feel so tired. But you have this one joint, your hands and others. We can talk about it a little more. But in case of rheumatoid arthritis, you also have, so it might be the elbow, the hands, the knee, the ankles, right? And maybe one and the other. Mightn't all of them be the same. Hands to the point where sometimes you see the joints become very swollen and deformed. But rheumatoid arthritis also tends to have problems with it affects the other organs, because rheumatoid arthritis also is what we call an autoimmune disease. Where your body kind of don't like itself so much, it attacks its own self, kind of like lupus. And they can look alike. You can have somebody who has lupus who have all these symptoms that you might think is just rheumatoid arthritis, when in truth and in fact it's lupus. It's lupus. But that we can talk about a little later. And then we have gouty arthritis. Gout tends to affect just one joint. Often it can affect others people, but we know of gout affecting that big toe joint that gets suddenly very red, very swollen, excruciating pain, which will actually ease up once you get some strong analgesics. Right? There's special medications that are made to take care of gouty arthritis. It tends to happen a little more in men though, and it happens in people who drink alcohol. And it's called rich man's disease. So people who drink red wine and eat red meat, there's a component in those compounds, in those substances, those foods that can trigger off your gout if you are prone to gout. What happens? You have crystals, literally, like, think about sugar, right? Crystals that accumulate in the joint, right? And cause the arthritis. And it's really intense pain. The joint becomes very red, very swollen, very tender, can't bear weight, excruciating. But that's arthritis. And I wanted to mention to talk about another form of arthritis, which is juvenile arthritis. Sometimes we have children who keep complaining of pain and stuff. And while it may be something as simple as sickle cell, as common as sickle cell, we do have children who have juvenile arthritis. And they need to be seen by the pediatrician and managed and followed up, because they too can have challenges as they get older. So those are the four big ones, but there are a whole lot more. There are whole other forms that I don't think this is where we really want to discuss them. We don't have the expertise to really discuss them intensely anyway. But for the knowledge of our population, I think, that's good. Right? But like I said, it's probably the most common challenge. Just having arthritis, your joints hurt, or they're swollen, is probably the most common.
How can someone tell the difference? For example, I feel pain in the joints. It's hurting. But how can I determine whether it's maybe osteo or rheumatoid? Is there a difference?
In your case, you're just old, but I'm talking about
that's old age.
That's old. No. So rheumatoid arthritis sometimes can come on younger, okay? 1. 2, rheumatoid arthritis, it's really just the lining. So you have a lot of swelling and a lot of you can have fluid in the joint, and sometimes just one joint at a time, right? but rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune disease, and you may have other things. So if you have osteoarthritis, your back hurts you every day, you get up in the morning, you go to the kitchen and light your cold pot, you do whatever you're going to do. After a while, you start moving around, you get up, you know that song?
Right, you get that.
Then you know your grandmother, God, my back killing me. My foot, my knee, sap, get up, start to walk around, and then in the middle of the day, granny outside singing songs and sweeping the yard. Right? Or you're gone. If you're going to exercise, it's like, it's so hard. By the time you walk 5-6 minutes, the pain starts disappearing. And as you go along, as the day progresses. In the case of rheumatoid arthritis.
But why that?
It's just because what you have is the joint gets a little, as you move it gets a little more supple. The exercise that you put makes it a little more supple. So that's what. Okay. In the case of the thing, try to imagine the joint. Remember, we have nerves and stuff running through the joints, okay, or along the joints. So when you have this tension of the joint, it creates excruciating, very sharp pain, right? And the warmth, and it's very, and often it's just one joint at a time, or some like all the small joints in the hand. But you have other symptoms, like I say, the fatigue and stuff.
Okay. When you because the rheumatoid is a lining, in the case of osteo, can you get let's say some easing after exercise as well, or with exercise it gets worse?
No, actually, it's better that you kind of treat the joint. You want to put whatever works, might be a hot pack, might be a cold pack. You want to take some medication. You really want to rest that joint until all of that swelling comes down. Okay? You really don't want to aggravate a rheumatoid pain because remember, the joint is really distended. It's not that simple. So you really want to rest it a little, take some pain medication, let the swelling go away. Because remember, in osteo, which comes in as we age, right? Osteo, the tissue gets swollen because you have deformity of the joint because the cartilage goes away, the ligaments are inflamed, so it's a little harder. It's not as warm. It's all of those things, and it doesn't happen as suddenly as in the case of when your rheumatoid arthritis comes on. It takes a longer time.
Okay.
We see a lot of people who walk around, right? Walk around and their knees look deformed, like they have what we call a K-foot in Grenada, right? That is because of osteoarthritis in the knee, right? And what you have the cartilage, right? Everything is fine. When the cartilage wears, everything goes however it wants. You don't have that anymore. There's a lot of, and often the other knee will probably have challenges as well because you depend so much on that other knee because can't bear weight and all the movement. The range of movement in osteoarthritis tends to be very progressively decreased because the joint becomes less and less functional. So in the case of rheumatoid arthritis, the joint probably just can't be used while you have this acute situation.
Okay, let's talk about some of the risk factors because I've been doing a little reading myself and I'm seeing a number of things as it relates to the risk factors for arthritis. I think one of them, if it can actually run your family. Does it have any genetic bearing?
Yes, they say that there is. Your mother had arthritis, your grandmother had arthritis, your parents, a lot of, I'm becoming like my grandmother. But the truth is, it does run in families, okay? You see one family to other having it. Age, as you get older, we have a greater chance, especially for osteoarthritis. As we get older, the chance of having arthritis, right, it increases. Anyway, trauma and excessive exercise. Some of us do a lot of high risk, a lot of intense exercising. I've seen some of those videos with, how do I call them? Do these high impact aerobics and stuff. If we look at some of our athletes, especially the athletes who are very good, some of our netballers, those sports and basketballers, sports where you jump and come back onto your knee. The days before we had shock absorbing shoes, right? That constant pressure broke up the cartilage, damaged the cartilage badly, and a lot of people have severe knee problems. So exercise can be, and of course trauma. I've had severe arthritis in my knee, and I've had to have a knee replacement, which is one of the options, because I was in an accident which damaged my knee, and the cartilage just went because of the injury. One of my ligaments broke, and I didn't realize that had happened. And within 10 years, I was having some problems and I had to have my knee repaired. Right, and that's because I developed arthritis because of how my knee couldn't control it, wasn't doing its normal movement because the ligament was gone. And so I damaged the cartilage, and eventually there was an excruciating pain. I remember walking through the car park at work one day, and I didn't realize trust me, there was a dip probably like an inch, running to get a ride with somebody. I didn't have a car then. I just moved to my new job. I didn't have a car, and I was running to get a job. And so I'm looking at the person coming out of the car park, and I dropped this 1.5 inches with so much, and I saw stars. Heaven and earth moved. I just said I couldn't talk. There was just so much pain, right? Because of the damage of just provoking already, and it just got progressively worse from there. So that trauma can make it worse. Obesity. Overweight puts a lot of work, especially on the knee and the ankles, and even on the back, right? So obesity does that kind of extra weight, gives your joint a lot more work to do than it's probably designed for. Creates a lot of stress on the joints, and especially like I said, the knees, the hip, and the spine. Okay, we talked about exercise and sports. Smoking is probably the one risk factor that creates the most challenge to almost every disease that we know about, right? Because all of those toxins, a cigarette may have up to 700 different toxins. We're not even talking about the nicotine, which is addictive, right? The nicotine is addictive, but it makes you smoke more. Well, that's what it does. But in smoking, we absorb all of these toxins into our system, and the toxins might cause stress on what we call the connective tissue, the ligaments and stuff that keep everything intact. And so you can have inflammation developing in the joints and having arthritis. And I say our attitudes, or just how we feel about ourselves, just your mind can make you have challenges with pain and stuff. So those are some of the risk factors. We talked about your diet, what you eat and stuff.
It is said that women are more likely than men to develop rheumatoid arthritis as compared to people who have gout and another type. Men are more likely. Why are women more likely to develop the rheumatoid
well, it's probably
arthritis?
The hormonal thing can influence. So, our hormones can crazy. You know how this type of thing, right? So sometimes the hormones can influence the development of rheumatoid arthritis.
Okay.
And one of the things, because rheumatoid arthritis tends to appear earlier, often, one of the things it causes is severe dysfunction and disability. So if you're 40 or 45, you probably still have young children at your house. You probably have little grandchildren come by, and you're already having mobility issues and so much pain, plus you don't feel well. You really feel very tired, which almost walks hand in hand with people who have rheumatoid arthritis. They feel sick. They feel, the lungs give them trouble. They develop cardiac problems and stuff. But what it does also is affect your productivity. Because a 45-year-old woman who's working in a job, think about a 45-year-old engineer or 45-year-old housekeeper who has been at that job. She's running a villa. She knows that at the back of her hand, she's having pain and, standards of work drop. She may be working less hours. If she works per hour, her income decreases. So we have to think about those things. How does having a disease like that affect me socially and economically? I can't go on with my friends. You don't want to walk on a beach because your knee's swollen, and you don't want to walk on the sand and twist your knee and hurt it. You don't feel good, or you're just embarrassed how you look. because you might have a little deformity. So those are the challenges that we have. You can also have eye problems. So the visual challenges that come up make you, want to just stay home. So your whole quality of life can be affected when you have rheumatoid arthritis.
In terms of race, is there any connection with, ethnicity and arthritis? Is there any particular race that
I'm not too
are
sure.
more likely?
I'm not too sure. I didn't see that emphasized in the readings that I did. I didn't see that. I know that lupus tends to occur more in, which has conditions like osteoarthritis, but I know that lupus does have a lot more propensity to people who look like us. And it has some symptoms. You're sick, you get heart problems, your pressure go up, your everything, because again, it's another autoimmune disease, except that the joint pains are not they're there, and you can have damage. You can have damage to the bigger joints, like your hip and your knee and stuff. So it becomes difficult. People have had to have knee replacements and all of that. So,
Right.
In the case of our population, I'm not sure about rheumatoid. I don't know what you've seen. What have you seen?
No, I haven't seen anything as it relates to race. That's why I was wondering. I know there are medical conditions that are influenced by ethnicity,
By race,
but
yeah.
I didn't see anything as it relates.
Certainly, lupus in our case. A lot of our women, lupus tends to appear, and it is an autoimmune disease, meaning that your immune system fights itself, and lupus tends to be very prevalent in our population.
What I also came across, Doc, is the fact that arthritis is the leading cause of pain and disability worldwide.
And disability, yeah. And it's funny because arthritis should be considered as a chronic disease, and conditions, facilities for people with arthritis, almost all of us, should be there. Facilities for exercising, swimming pools, other things. We talk about how we're going to manage it after, but there should be facilities. The streets should be better. Think about it. I saw a lady who may have arthritis walking in town yesterday. She was being aided with, somebody's walking with her, but she was walking with a stick and walking with a significant limp. And she had to walk on the road, and who could blame her?
Because the sidewalks are always, it's a problem.
Apart from the fact that in front of KFC, people always park on the sidewalk like that's park. That's one pseudo decent piece of sidewalk in St. George's. But the sidewalks are very uneven, so you really can't trust them for your, especially if you're an older person with arthritis, your vision already deteriorating naturally anyway. You can't see. I'm cautious when I walk in town. When I walk in town with sneakers or shoes that are orthopedically built, I don't go to town with. I try my best not to go into town with shoes that have a heel or stuff, because there are quite a few times that, luckily, I still have some strength in my legs that are nearly out of bruise off my nose completely. So the state, I fall on my face. I always say fall on my face in those places, So we have to ensure that our streets are in consideration for people who have arthritis. We already have a very hilly terrain, naturally hilly terrain, so that already puts our people at risk. So one, you have to make sure that you have railings and stairs, where there's stairs, and so people can support themselves coming down the stairs. Because we want our population to be as active for as long as possible, as mobile and as independent, especially as per mobility, as far as long as possible. But Grenada is just naturally hilly. We understand that, okay? And we accept that. If you were to walk up the hill to the hospital, well, I don't come down that hill because I have severe motion challenges, so I feel like I'm going to fall in the sea. And I remember as a little girl coming up those stairs. I was probably like 6 or 7. And I actually came down those whole stairs from the hospital on my bottom because they were so uneven, I kid you not. I was dizzy all the time. So think of an older person who has arthritic pain. The stairs, the rails don't go all the way to the top, right? The rails on the seaside. So if you have problems with balance, you're in trouble because the sea would make you feel a little unbalanced. Plus, the stairs are very, very uneven. And that's was one of the challenges you have. Because the stairs are uneven where we have stairs, often we have stairs. So we have to be aware of how we do our infrastructural development in the interest and for the safety of people. The bottom line is that we have also a population that's aging. So we're going to have much older people as a percentage of the population than we had 40 and 50 years ago. We must ensure that they can live as well as they deserve to. So that's one. The other thing is that building facilities for sports, not only for rehabilitation sports, but also so that people can have a place to exercise. Oh, so we have 2 stadiums, right? There's no walking track around the stadiums. Why not?
Yeah,
I'm just not to answer that question. Why isn't there a walking track? Why isn't there in Cuthbert Peters Park? Is that one in Golf? Or where is that?
Yes,
right?
Yeah, that's Golf. That's Golf.
Why don't they have a walking track around, a safe walking track where people from Golf, because most people in Golf live almost on the streets, but the people can go down, take their children and go walk around the track in the evening.
Like the Savannah in Trinidad, there's an area.
Savannah and like other places, because I've been to little places in Trinidad where they have outdoor gym and they have walking track around the field in the community. Those are the things we have to look for as we build infrastructure that will enhance the quality of life of our aging population. Because if that is the most commonly occurring, we have to figure it out. It must mean that we have to have a place for our children to exercise. Because what happens when you exercise? When you exercise, you strengthen your muscles and the ligaments. So even the joints not doing so hot, you have good muscle strength to be able to keep your mobility for as long as possible. And those are the things we have to take into consideration. Not just providing medications and stuff, but providing facilities that will help us to prevent. Because if your granny has it, you might get it anyway. At least if you can fix it or keep it from advancing. So we need to have those kind of facilities. So
because most people who walk in Grenada exercise, they do it on the road. I mean, and that in itself is risky.
Yeah. So that crazy driver can bounce it on, because crazy driver know that you're not supposed to be walking there.
We have a lot, and we have a lot of them. Right.
Oh man, it's a whole nation.
Definitely. Doc, let's take our first break quickly and we're going to come back. I want us to talk a little bit about some of the do's and don'ts. So for example, people who have arthritis, what are some of the things that they can be advised to do, and what are some of the things that they should be advised not to do? So stay with us, folks. We'll be back with you in just a minute. We'll also be taking your calls very early. Our number is 435-2041. So keep close to your phone and your questions. We'll be back with you in just a moment.
Here is a little known fact. There is only one place in Grenada that you can get an MRI scan done. That place is Spicile Imaging Center. Yes, Grenada, that's the truth. Other centers could offer you other scans, but Spicile Imaging provides an authentic MRI scan. Here's another little known fact. Spicile Imaging has 3 centers. We operate at Grenville, the Carnage, and at Ocean House, Grandlands. We provide a wide range of laboratory tests and services. CT scans, X-rays, mammograms, ultrasounds, and a host of other services. We are fully staffed by a team of family doctors and specialists. Call us today, 444-7679. or 406-1500, or visit any of our 3 locations. Spicile Imaging, from seeing the doctor to getting lab tests, scans, and pharmacy services. We are here to take care of you.
Do you have muscular pain that no one can find a solution for? Are you tired of taking meds for joints and other pains? Hills and Valley Medicare Center on Grenville Street, St. George is here to help you heal. We will help you map a path to your full recovery. Visit us Monday to Saturday for a consultation with our on-site doctor, physiotherapist, and massage team. You will be glad you did. Our Medicare Center, a proud member of the Hills and Valley group of companies. On the hilltop or in the valley, we are with you wherever life takes you. Hills and Valley Farmers, your health is our business.
We often take mobility for granted. That is why at the Grenada Physiotherapy Limited, we look after our patients' holistic well-being. We assess and treat from the simplest to the most complex complaints. Treating injury is not our only focus. We have a passionate team and a wide array of practitioners working together to assist you through that rehabilitation process. We offer a wide range of services: speech, massage and physiotherapy, weight management, cardiac rehabilitation, and much more. Call and make an appointment today, 435-8000, or visit us downstairs the National Cricket Stadium, gate 101-115.
When a loved one passes on, we all need the comfort, support, and guidance of a trusted friend. You can rely on LaCour Brothers Funeral Home. We provide a personalized professional service that exceeds all expectations. Our dedicated staff responds to your every need with the greatest detail, ensuring affordability with a variety of options. Our upgraded state-of-the-art facilities, spacious air-conditioned chapel with live internet streaming, a modern, environmentally safe crematorium, only of its kind on island, private viewing spaces, large on-site repast center, a modern transportation fleet. Join our burial society today and make personalized arrangements for that final moment. As you prepare to enter your loved one into eternal rest, visit or call LaCour Brothers Funeral Home and select a package that brings added comfort to the entire family. LaCour Brothers Funeral Home and Burial Society, continuing a tradition of excellence.
Introducing Color by Sissons. 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 Color by Sissons.
Welcome back, folks. It's Doctor and Called, and we're discussing arthritis. So far, we've told you about the two main types: osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis. Yeah, and of course, the symptoms, what you can look for, and all of that. So, Doc, I want us to now look a little bit at the do's and don'ts. So, I believe
I want us to talk about how we figure out what was going on first.
Right. Yeah. How do we determine? Yeah. How do we determine what's wrong? Yeah.
What's wrong with you? You know, everybody got like a pain, right? You might get a pain. I might get a back pain or a knee pain because you jump a drain, you miss how, or you underestimate the length or the height of the place, and you fall. You put your legs, you put your feet on harder, you hurt your knee, you hurt your back, or you miss
the bank and you fall in the drain.
You miss the bank and you fall in the drawer. Yeah, we know all of that. Or sometimes you lift something and you can't get up. You bend down and you can't get up. Or you strain your back. So you kind of need to know the difference. Mm-hmm. But in diagnosing arthritis, there's a few things we look at. We look for painful swollen joints. So it could be painful, it could be swollen or both, mm-hmm. right? And it's ongoing. There's stiffness. Remember you get up in the morning and you can't move, especially in the case of osteoarthritis. You can't move. Plus, if your joint is swollen in the case of rheumatoid arthritis, you have a big swollen knee, you can't really move it, okay? Mm-hmm. So there's decrease in movement. When it's fully swollen, remember there's a lot of fluid in there, so nothing in there moving, right? It's all stiff. Deformities. Remember talk about getting a K-foot?
Yes.
When you have, or sometimes you see people who have hands that are very deformed, right? Or your knee, or wherever the joint is, your wrist, because of this chronic inflammation, right? And then the noise. I don't know what you call it in Grenada. you know the kukum when you walk in your knee, everything make. Oh, you know what you call it?
Yeah, it cracking.
Right. There's the Jamaicans call it kukum. I mean, everything is like you can literally hear it rubbing together. Those are the surfaces of the joint rubbing together, right? And of course, we're talking about your symptoms being worse in the morning in the case of osteoarthritis, and improving as the day goes by. So that gives you a hint, right, that you have osteoarthritis. The pain often is like either burning or as a dull ache, burning. Literally feel like, Lord, my ankle feel like it's on fire. It's burning. You know, it's really, really a sharp burning pain. Or and in the case of if you use that joint excessively, you cannot irritate it, right? If it's already have this underlying inflammation, once you use it excessively, you walk too much, or you bend over the tub and wash for too long, or you're grating coconut on the counter, and you use of the joint for prolonged periods can make it come on and often, I mean, we go to the doctor. Some of us take medication. We're going to talk about the medications after, right? But we take medication. But in order, you have this pain, you've been fine, and all of a sudden this knee start doing all kind of funny things. You want a doctor to look at it. What your doctor should do is really examine you, ask you questions, But whether your mother had it, your granny, your uncle, your grandfather, anybody else in your family, my uncle, my two uncles them had knock knee. I remember as a little girl, my mother they had knock knees. You'd have some recollection if people, or you might have your brother or sister who has similar problems and they're adults as well. So your doctor will examine you, see how much range of movement, how much movement you can get in your joint, because he needs to figure out you might not be able to move a lot at all because it means it's such an old joint, an old injury, old condition. So it's been there so long, but you might have total range of movement. It might be limited because of pain, of course, right? Or you might have some tenderness in the joint. So the doctor needs to examine you properly, ask you, but are you having fever? Do you have anywhere else? What else is happening? Okay? So your doctor might want to x-ray the joint. Okay? Do an x-ray to see if there's any changes inside the joint. And often, if you're having severe symptoms, you may have changes already occurring, right? In the case of osteoarthritis, because there's all this swelling of the soft tissue around it. Rheumatism. In the case of rheumatoid arthritis, rheumatism, soft tissue is affected. Lining and stuff, everything gets swollen, everything, there's a lot of fluid, a lot of effusion into the joint. You can do an ultrasound to see what's going on. Okay? If there's just a lot of, bigness. I'm not talking about the chronic swelling like you see in bad knees that's already old. I'm talking about where you have an acute swelling or recurrent swelling that goes and comes and goes and comes. You want to see how much damage is going on inside, and you can do an x-ray, an ultrasound, which is really like taking a camera and rubbing it over it, and it tells you what's going on inside there. And then you can do an MRI. An MRI is probably one of the more advanced type of x-ray, right? Which is able to look at soft tissues in closed places, right? So we do MRI when we have brain problems, and we do MRIs especially for joints. In more advanced societies where there's more access to that kind of care, people have MRIs done to figure out. And sometimes that's what we need to do, because you might do an x-ray. I saw somebody the other day who had an x-ray done, and I'm saying, you actually need something more advanced, because I know that the person has a problem that the x-ray doesn't pick up.
Right. Okay.
So, right. And then in the specialists, the orthopedic doctors, do what we call arthro, as in joint, scopy, as in scoping out. Right? So do arthroscopy, and using the arthroscope, they'll go in and they literally look and see what is the status of the joint. Is there a lot of debris? What is the cartilage like? How much wasting? How much bone is damaged, and all the rest. Sometimes they can do some cleaning, or sometimes you could take out some of the debris and stuff in there and improve. Sometimes you could put medications in there, because you can do it like steroids and stuff that injected into the joints to improve challenges. But even that has its limits, huh? Right. You only put so much fluid into someone's joint. So you want to have it properly investigated to figure out exactly where you are, especially in the case of osteo. If your doctor is going to do a knee replacement, for example, if the knee is that bad, he's going to want to have a MRI or probably even a CT to figure out just how bad your knee is. Most likely MRI to figure out just how much damage is there. Is this a time when you can have your knee completely replaced? So diagnosis is very important. The other things that you have to be very careful and have to consider. Okay, I've been having my knee. All of a sudden, this thing really hurting me a whole lot. You need to go see the doctor. If it's getting worse, if there's worseness. And sometimes you have spurs being formed in the knee, sometimes as a result of stress, stress on the joint or stress within you, emotional stress. You can have problems. Sometimes, remember we talk about when the weather getting cold and rain go.
Yes.
Like the last few nights, and I'm sure people who live in past areas that are a little more mountainous, like up under the granite tang and stuff, people have a little more pain because it is quite cold in the nights. I mean, it's the coldest I've seen in Grenada, and I love the cold, but it's it's cold and damp, so it's a little unpleasant. It's not a cold you can put a sheet or blanket over you and feel warm. It's just damp. The air is damp, so it's uncomfortable. And then if you have an infection in a joint, it may cause you to have some challenge as well. You want to see the doctor. And if you have gained weight, because some of us do, as we get older, we gain weight. So sometimes that is also one of the challenge and encouraging worsening situations. So, what are you asking me again?
About do's and don'ts. So someone you've gone to the doctor, you're diagnosed with one or the other, osteo or rheumatoid. What are some of the things you would advise a patient? Let's say, for example, who has osteoarthritis. What should that patient do? One, to help, and secondly, not do to compromise or further compromise the problem.
So I think we've spoken about all of this, but we're going to put it back in those little baskets. So first of all, you have to be aware. You have to know. You have to have a diagnosis, right? What's going on here, right? And we take, we still, our population still uses a lot of homemade remedies. But you have to know. You have to understand what's going on. So if you have a doctor, may have a relationship with a doctor, someone who can guide you through. You need to do that. If it's the nurse in a clinic, whoever it is, but you need to have that kind of relationship so that because you may need to be referred from your doctor to the specialist, right? Because the situation is really
right.
Especially if you're a younger person, and I mean younger women who you still want to date and you don't want to be walking around with a stick and a knock knee, and you're dragging it and all that, and just for one's self-esteem. But so. We talked about drinking and smoking and stuff. Those will still make a situation worse. So your lifestyle, eating healthy. You know that fish liver oils do help. There are other things like people take things like it slipped on my head. Nutritionals that people take. Glucosamine chondroitin and stuff. They do help some people. So if you can find, and I don't know what local remedies we use, like that we drink, like whatever herbs and stuff. I'm not sure, but I'm sure there are things that people drink. Turmeric does help a lot with arthritis.
Yeah, inflammation.
Okay. Yes, and with inflammation in general, but it does help. People who have joint pains tell you when they drink turmeric tea and they're good. Okay, so if you have something that's not toxic to your body, that will enhance the flavor, the situation, make you more functional and have less pain, all more power to you. If you have medication that you're taking, take your medication. There's no need to suffer, okay? If you have anyway. And the truth is, you may need to walk with a stick to prevent further injury, not just to that knee, but to the other foot. If it's a knee problem, don't do things, don't lift heavy weights if you already have problem with your joint. So contain your activity as far as your possibilities lie. What you don't go do heavy exercises and things that are risky, and like we talk about drinking and smoking and those. So you have to lose weight. If the weight is one of the challenges to the knee and the back and the stuff. For men who are prone to tell me again, to gout, right?
Right.
We know that alcohol, especially darker alcohol, whiskey, dark rums, and red wine specifically are going to trigger it off. You know that when you eat a lot of meat, so sometimes you go barbecue and want to take a piece of beef, or and I want a piece of steak and stuff, or burgers, it's going to trigger off your gout. So we need to avoid the thing. There is medications that people with gout can take throughout to prevent the uric acid buildup, and of course, you need to follow that with your doctor. So take your medications, just and continue and deal with your stress, because stress is seen to enhance the whole issue of arthritis.
Right.
Look out for challenges with your children. If your child keeps complaining, I don't think it's only because he doesn't want to go to school or he don't want to sit and watch the boring teacher on Zoom morning. He probably really is genuinely having pain. If your child has pain in the joint, you kind of need to figure out whether your child has actually had injury, because children, especially primary school age children, they do all kind of crazy things, especially boys.
They run around,
right?
They climb, they run around,
they
do all sorts of things.
They do very risky things. They fall, they don't pay attention, right? And they make sure they might have a regular broken bone, but still, your child may be having juvenile arthritis, and so that requires being checked.
What about posture? Sometimes we sit and as the folks would say, you sprawl off on your chair, on your couch. You sprawl off.
You loll up.
Yeah, you just loll up on your couch, and you just.
When you sit in the same position, the couch becomes deformed. So because what that does actually is really put a lot of strain on the muscle, and the muscles don't function as well, and eventually the joints start aching. That if you don't get up and stretch and make things fall back into place, you're gonna eventually have a lot of back pain and stuff. So posture is very important.
Posture is very important.
For children carrying those heavy bags, those heavy bags to school and stuff, And one of the things that cause a lot of problem for kids that we tend to miss, the whole thing of having scoliosis, which is a deformity, but sometimes it causes back pain because the joints are not aligned properly.
Right.
I saw a very interesting thing today, though. Usain Bolt posted a picture of himself from behind, saying that nothing should keep you back. Did you see that?
But I knew that a long time about him. That's not a secret, But if you
not a secret, I'm saying I would have never even thought about it.
Yes.
I mean, I say, you have scoliosis.
Yeah.
And sometimes people have very mild scoliosis and don't know. Right? So we as physicians need to start looking out, because what it does, when your back is twisted a little, it means that one limb may be a little more dependent, right? And eventually you have knee and ankle problems, because one side of your body carries a little more weight. So if your back is already not so hot, and we should ask, parents should make sure that when their children go to the doctor, you're 6 and 7 and 10 and you're 12 and you're 13-year-old,
check them out.
Because it looks and their post, and they really and truly have scoliosis, which is going to eventually give them problems with their knee and and even their hip, because one side is going to carry a little more weight than the other because it's shorter.
Right. In terms of people's limits, people with arthritis, how much they do. Because, for example, it would be a good idea to exercise the joints and keep them moving. But, of course, there should be some limits so that you don't, in trying to help a situation, you don't worsen it.
So, here's what I will tell my patients. If I have a patient who has severe arthritis, there are other professionals who can help you, okay? And just seeing a physiotherapist, that's their role. They understand how far you can bend or how far you cannot bend. They can help you to do proper exercises that will maximize your ability to maintain as much mobility or to get more mobility than you think you actually have. So I think being able to use physiotherapy services is very, very important. We tend not to. We use it a lot for people who have had accidents or people who have had strokes and so for rehabilitation. But for evaluation and helping you to do proper exercises, choosing exercises for you and stuff, you need your physiotherapist. when I was going to get my knee done, for example, I had to go to the physiotherapy and do exercises to strengthen my leg and my calf muscles so that I can manage to walk when my knee wasn't functioning. I could use my muscles to make me mobile. And I can tell you, when you do knee replacement, you can't lie down in bed. You have to get up next day. You have to get up. I got up 4 hours later and walked as best as I could. You have crutches, but you have to get up and be mobile again. But physiotherapy services had already prepared me, so I was actually using my muscles to walk when the knee couldn't do its own movements, you know.
Right.
And so that's one of the areas I wish we would use a little more, those services. Sometimes it costs, but sometimes, you know, you can ask the physiotherapist to teach you what you need to do, and you can go home and practice it. Your range of movement will depend on your range of movement. How much movement you allow yourself should actually depend on who you are, what you do, what's your age, where you used to be before you start having all of this, what you really need to do, what you don't need to do, what's your weight, because you might just need to lose some weight. How much muscle tone, what's your muscle tone like, how much muscle you have, whether you can use them to help you to move around. Or sometimes you just need surgery to fix that job.
People who are, well, we know obesity is one of the things that can, create problems here. But what about people who are, let's say, very slim? So you don't have no fat.
You mean like Jack Sprout?
Yeah. You call them a piece of board. So you see somebody and that person is a piece of board. They have no flesh on their skin. People like that, are they also, or how is it for them with arthritis? The fact that you don't, so your muscle support now becomes limited.
Well, people who are slim probably will have less chance of arthritis being severe, especially because they're not carrying a lot of weight.
Right.
Slim people tend to have a predominance of muscle. So even they are going to need to have to exercise their muscles to enhance the movement of their joints. Because guess what? Because you're slim, if your granny has arthritis, you still run, or your mother, you still run the risk of developing arthritis. But you have to also do the things to maintain your mobility. You don't know skinny people who don't have good knee. They don't necessarily have to be heavy. It's just that we see the heavy people because we think they're the only ones, but there are slim people. But it may not advance as quickly because it's not being aggravated by, especially in your lower limbs, right? It's not being aggravated by that heavy body weight. Because the heavy body weight is probably one of the biggest predisposing factors, right? One of the biggest risk factors. But slim people can have arthritis.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about, we're going to come to medication in a bit, what can be used. But in terms of, let's say, emotional, we talk a bit about the physical, but someone's emotional condition as it relates to arthritis.
It's funny because especially in relation to arthritis, writers are saying that your emotional state is very important. And maybe it's two ways. Maybe the fact that you have so much disability can cause a lot of stress and depression. But maybe is just that the depression also contributes to your arthritic state. So you get into that vicious cycle. It's very important that people who have challenges with arthritis, especially severe arthritis that's debilitating, do have some psychological support, right? Because remember, we talked about losing purpose, losing function, right? Especially younger. I've seen younger people with like severe rheumatoid arthritis who lose half of their month's work because they can't. It's just so debilitating. They get up and there's so much pain. So they do need, and because they do feel depressed, it comes with that picture anyway. So they need to get some support and psychological support. I wish it were more diffusely available in our community, but we as physicians and primary caregivers need to help people to facilitate people to that point, And remember that some forms of arthritis is very, very deforming. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
And in a time where everything is based on aesthetics, how do I look? You see how people pose to take picture? Everybody hand on their side and the bottom to the camera. As people feel as a nice side of them. I look good, I look hot, I look sexy. Nobody wants to look like an old lady. If you're 40, walking with a stick, have to wear long clothes because your knees so deformed or your hands are so deformed and all the rest. So, there's psychological support that everyone needs. And sometimes families need it as well because they're the ones who see how much you suffer and all the rest of it.
Where does let's say relaxation fits in all of this?
Well, relaxation comes as part of therapy, right? One of the things that's really very good is swimming or aqua therapy.
Right.
You can go into the ocean.
water.
So you have, but it's not only just the water. It's not the water. You can just go and stand in the water. You don't have to oppose it because the water is going to oppose you anyway because the sea moves. Okay? But the seawater has magnesium, which helps which gets absorbed, which helps as in muscle relaxation, and which also helps in pain relief.
Oh. So doc, when the older folks tell you to go, you have a swelling or you have some pain, go by the bay and sap it. So there's truth in that. There's good things there.
Free of cost.
Oh man, it's amazing. I mean, you hear these things and we think it's all people thing.
At the same time, your grandma would tell you careful because seawater don't have no branch. So.
No, but you go and sit in the stones, the little stony areas, and you sap.
Did you go to the beach with your mother as a child ever?
Yes.
So one time as a little girl, my grandmother went on the beach, on my mother's side, and they sit down on the sand, and the sea have to come to meet them.
Yes, they don't want the wave come. Yeah.
When the wave come, they sap, the wave go, and then they take some sand and they massage and they rub and they take all the dirt out, and then the sea come back and they sap. That's how they did it. They're not good in there, no branch. I mean, like
areas where I lived up in Tivoli, we will go down to La Poetry, and there's an area called Arthritis where you can go. So there's a stony area, and you have some big stones, so you can actually sit on a stone and the wave comes.
Your seawater had boulders. I live in St. George, we go granites. So you don't have no branch. Okay, yeah. My grandmother sits on the sand. If the sea don't come, she don't get wet. So this is I need to tell my We Culture team that there is definitely truth in Granny saying to go to the beach and sap the knee and the back. Yeah. Apart from the fact that I remember one day in medical school where we lived like on the 6th floor and you can see the ocean, right? And this girl was just standing there. I was in like 3rd year medical school, and this girl was an intern. And I said, "What are you doing?" She says, "I'm looking at the sea." I said, "Why?" She said, "Because there's so much peace. It's very relaxing. We have things we can do, and I just go and sit down somewhere and watch the ocean." And I said to go up to Welcome Stone because you can't climb if your knee hurting you, but it's still a good place. We have wonderful places we can just sit and enjoy.
Yes.
Right? And that's what I think we do is create so much relax, and it's free. Don't cost nobody nothing. Some of us have nice houses. We don't even sit on our balcony and watch firefly fly in the night.
I usually have fun with birds. They usually come around to get water, and they have no respect for me. They just come.
No, my bird's worse than you because my birds eat. If I have banana on my counter, they eat it. I cover it, they remove the towel and eat the banana.
Okay. Now, one of the things also, we hear a lot about massaging and stuff like that. But so my question to you is whether there is a good and bad side of massaging, because if you have inflammation, can massaging the area further inflame it, or will it help?
So I think there's an interesting balance that you have to have, okay? Because if you have gout, which is your joint actually look red. It's tender. You can't touch it. Nobody can touch it, right? You don't want nobody rubbing that. You actually would rather put an ice pack. It would help to ease the inflammation and make it come down. So I think that has its moments.
Right.
Remember that because you have swelling in the joints, especially in the case of rheumatoid arthritis, where you have all the soft tissue around swelling, sometimes massaging might help, or rubbing an analgesic cream. We have nutmeg, which is miraculous, I hear, by the people who have used it. So you can massage, yes, but I think that has to be carefully determined, okay, whether or not I'm going to do this. In the case of rheumatoid, probably a little more, because it's soft tissue, and the soft tissue around the joint. In the case of arthritis, yes, you may have the muscles affected, but remember that massaging really affects muscles and soft tissue. That's what it really works on. So is it worth it? Maybe not.
What about the?
Maybe it depends. It has to be gauged according to the state and the stage of person's at.
Right. What about applying heat and cold? When do you apply heat? When do you apply cold? Or do you apply both?
So the rule I learned, that's what I learned originally, was that you apply heat, you apply cold when you have a new injury.
Okay.
So like you need just something right. So like you're running and you twist your ankle, you put cold.
Cold.
Because you want the blood vessels to constrict and the swelling to be limited, because when blood vessels broken on the thing because you caused injury, right? The blood will flow to the area to kind of fix it up, okay? So you want to ice to really contain the amount of swelling, help with the pain, right? Reduce, because the truth is at the same time, while it is normal for it to swell up, the swelling will also cause limited your movement and probably more pain if the tissues get very stretched. Okay. So new injury, but if you have an old injury that's always there, you kind of need to put heat on it. It tends to break up all the. Some people swear by intermittent. You know, you use hot and cold and hot and cold. It does have its merits as well, but. If you have a new injury, use ice on it, and after a while, use heat. And if you have an old knee that's been there forever, I don't know that ice is going to help, because you have so much swelling and all kind of stuff. Not just swelling with fluid in there, all the old connective tissue that multiply and a lot of scarring inside the joint. The heat might help to reduce that situation a whole lot more.
Okay, but it's not a case where you should be interchanging, like you apply heat and then cold.
It works for them, especially when they have old injuries that come back. That sometimes it works for them. For some people it works. I'm not an authority on that, but I've seen it work for people.
Okay. Wonderful. So before we go to the phone, finally, medication. What kind of medication that we use for?
Yeah. So it comes from simple things as using Panadol. Panadol will help pain. Panadol and Tylenol, the basic ones, will help pain. They don't help inflammation as much. Okay. They don't help with the skin as much. As things like aspirin will help with the pain, and it has some anti-inflammatory conditions, but it's also not kind to your stomach. And then we step up a little, and we have things like Voltaren and cataflamine, which are NSAIDs, the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. So you have that, Advil, meloxicam, and all of those which are non-steroidals, which help. They help pain. They actually treat fever. They treat pain, fever, and inflammation. Okay.
Right.
So they will bring on the swelling. They will contain the pain, but they also have the challenges with the stomach. So you have to think about that.
Right.
And then you have other drugs. You have like things like tramadol, which look like a narcotic, but behaves like a narcotic, but it's not really. And then there are narcotic substances, depending on how much of which we don't really use. But then you have things like, in the days gone by, so you use gold, and you use some anti-cancer drugs like methotrexate. But nowadays they have fancy drugs, especially like in the case of the autoimmune problems. they have things like, Lord, they have strange names. They call them the biologics, right? Those are expensive drugs that act directly through the immune system that helps to contain arthritis. So you see it all the time being advertised on TV. Or they end up, most of them end with most of their names end in NAB, NAB.
Okay.
A million of them. So, but they're quite expensive drugs because they're really new and tend to be a little specific as far as the immune effect is concerned. They are expensive.
Right. Okay. Fantastic.
But they work.
Right.
They work. Especially in patients with long-standing, like rheumatoid arthritis and stuff. You'll see. You'll be more, when you watch the ads on, especially on American TV, you will see.
Oh yes. Oh yes. There's a whole plethora of information following what it can cause and what it can cause and all of that.
Yeah, but all medications have that, okay? Don't fool yourself. It's just that, recently people have been doing it because as we become more litigious conscious, you want to sue somebody. As we become
yes, definitely.
More and more aware of how much suit we can have, how much money we get from a suit. So I'm not talking about a jacket and pants, okay? I'm talking about suing somebody.
All right. So that we
those are the options for treatment.
Right. And those medications, do you require a doctor's prescription, or you can go to the pharmacy?
Yes, and
that's
we
for.
talked about this last week. Yes. Okay. In the early to mid 90s, a company called Merck Sharp and Dohme, they make a lot of medications that we still use today. Merck Sharp and Dohme developed a product called Vioxx, which was a COX-2 inhibitor. Remember I told you about how those medications make your stomach get irritable and you can have bleeding and stuff? The COX-2 prevented that. But the COX also can have side effects, cardiovascular side effects. Okay? Can have heart problems and stuff, kidney problems. If you took one Vioxx, Lord, I can't remember how Vioxx went, 25, 50, 100, something like that, okay? So let's say you started the middle dose of Vioxx. You're not paying for 3 days, but people like that they don't have pain, so they take it anyway. Merck tells you do not use it for more than 7 days because they know that after 7 days, you run the risk of having other complications.
Okay.
Merck was actually taken off the market because of abuse. Trust me, Vioxx took away your pain, especially your arthritic pain. Okay, it worked. Pfizer still has Celebrex or Colecoxib. There are a couple other, Etobicoxib, there's still others, right? But they specifically have very little irritant effects on the stomach. But if I had one Celebrex, this is my experience. If I took one Celebrex, my ankles was because it does affect how my kidneys function. So I know that I don't take Celebrex. Some people it works for, but you should not take it. And that's part of the problems. We have to look for other ways. We mustn't forget that sometimes surgery is the way out of arthritis. Okay, sometimes for some people, surgery. So you have people who've had hip replacements, like in the case of people with lupus, people who have injury, athletes, right? Getting and hip replacements. Sometimes that's the only thing that brings pain. I met a gentleman who had one knee, and he said next year he went and checked it up because he was much older guy. He's still jogging, right? Still goes walking, but he's a jogger. And sometimes, like I tell you, in the days when we jog excessively and we jog without shoes that really gave good support and prevented the shock, right? When we were running on the field with those with gym boots, those kind of shoes that didn't have any support, right? And people injure their back and they injure their knees and they injure their ankles. So we still have all of that. Let's see what happens in our children and hope that they feel better because they have better quality gym wear.
All right. So let's take our last commercial break. When we come back, we're going to open telephone lines and take some calls from our listeners. Stay with us. We'll be back in a moment.
When you need your prescription filled or you require non-prescribed medication, supplements, or all your personal needs, visit Kittens Healthcare at locations on Wall Street, Grandans, Victoria Street, and Central Deputy Street, Wharf. Kittens Healthcare aims to provide an exceptional personalized pharmacy experience. Additionally, children under 5 and adults 55 years and over will enjoy 10% discount on purchases of $20 and over on prescription medication. Stop settling for less. Visit Kittens Healthcare, where your health is our priority.
Get ready for a season of grooving smooth and live on GBN. Grooving Smooth and Live is a 1-hour performance gig every Thursday from 8 p.m. featuring performances from our local musicians and short interviews discussing all things musical. Every Thursday, a different musician and a different instrument will be featured, from the violin to the saxophone to the trumpet, guitar, and steel pan. Our local musicians playing, improvising, and educating us on all genres of music. Join GBN with host musicians Matthias and Shireen and a special guest every Thursday at 8 p.m. It's Grooving Smooth and Live on GBN.
Cheer at the communal. This Christmas, we are your Santa. It's all about sharing the warmth of this season with those you love. Get in on this special, taking advantage of great interest rates with no principal payments until January 2022. Share the gift of love. Make it a merrier Christmas with the communal. Exciting prizes for members throughout the promotion. For we are your Santa this Christmas. Offer ends January 1st, 2022. Lending terms and conditions apply. Communion show with that we can. A whole new level of convenience and comfort awaits you when you shop at Rise and Shine Supermarket and Hardware Supplies, Griffin Lake, Grenville. Convenient, because we are open Sunday to Sunday. We're even at your service on public holidays. Comfort, because we are electable to the physically challenged. Free Wi-Fi is available while you shop, and bags come at no charge. Everyday low prices and excellent customer care. Adequate parking available. We supply everything you can possibly think of. Family and home supplies, fruit, vegetables, and personal care products. All brands of cooking gas at affordable prices. You can send in your order, have it pulled, or pick up express.
When a loved one passes on, we all need the comfort, support, and guidance of a trusted friend. You can rely on LaCour Brothers Funeral Home. We provide a personalized professional service that exceeds all expectations. Our dedicated staff responds to your every need with the greatest detail, ensuring affordability with a variety of options. Upgraded state-of-the-art facilities, spacious air-conditioned chapel with live internet streaming, a modern, environmentally safe crematorium, the only of its kind on island, private viewing spaces, large on-site repast center, a modern transportation fleet. Join our burial society today and make personalized arrangements for that final moment. As you prepare to enter your loved one into eternal rest, visit or call LaCour Brothers Funeral Home and select a package that brings added comfort to the entire family. LaCour Brothers Funeral Home and Burial Society, continuing a tradition of excellence.
Welcome back, folks. So our telephone line is open. The number 435-2041. If you have any questions you would like to ask the doctor, you can definitely do so. The number again, 435-2041. Give us a call and we will be happy to share with you what information we can as it relates to arthritis and, of course, well, the different types. The two main types we spoke about, rheumatoid and osteoarthritis. Very common indeed. I know probably every one of us knows someone that has arthritis, and maybe you yourself probably do have it. All right. Doc, there was right question I wanted to ask. Right, in terms of do you do a laboratory test if someone has that issue to sort of determine which one, especially the rheumatoid, because it's autoimmune?
Yes, so there are specific tests that you do. And remember, there are other things you can consider people having, especially in the case of adults, right? Lupus, for one. There's fibromyalgia, which is mostly muscle and tissue hurt, but you feel stiff all the time, but you actually tender when you have fibromyalgia. You have pain, you can actually touch it. We call them trigger points. It can have up to 14 trigger points existing. So the person has pain and you touch, ow! Mm-hmm. There's no swelling or anything, but the person has pain. Often related to a lot of depression. You have, what we said, lupus. So there are other conditions you have to think about. You have to make sure. I mean, it could just be ordinary back pain because the person injured themselves. Mm-hmm. You'd have done an X-ray. But you want to look and make sure there are other things. You might tell the other forms of arthritis, yes, right? That you want to make sure do not exist. So there are blood tests that you can do. And lupus has its own specific batch of tests that
you do. Okay.
So the doctor, in trying to figure out what's going on, can just look and then can figure out how much inflammation is there by doing what you call a C-reactive protein, that's kind of semi-specific for inflammation, especially arthritic inflammation. So
okay. Right. Let's go to the telephone. I think we have a caller on the line. Doctor and call. Well, we lost the caller. So caller, you can try back 435-2041. We took a little long before we came to you, but you can definitely try again 435-2041, and you can share with us your question or whatever contribution you would like to make to the program. Let's go back to our telephone. Doctor and call, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening, caller.
Yes, and good evening to Doc. Just a quick question in regards to if you have too much fluid in both knees, is it wise to take off fluid in those knees?
If you have too much fluid, it may in fact limit your mobility and might cause pain. The truth is, though, you do need a certain amount of fluid to act as just how you put gear oil in your gearbox and engine oil in your engine to keep it supple and mobile. You do need to have some synovial fluid in there. Sometimes the fluid may be because you've had an injury, but it's kind of unlikely that either both your knees. But if you have fluid, too much fluid, if it's causing you to have challenges in moving, I think you can remove it. It doesn't matter, as long as you leave some in there for them to be mobile. Supple.
Okay. The reason why
I was talking about injury, because sometimes when you have injury, and it's quite likely to be one, you might have an accident, for example, right? And you have this sudden thing, and what you have in there, you might have blood. So sometimes let it, you can take out some. So, but sometimes you don't want it to bleed too much. It depends on what's going on. So, and that's for the specialist to do. Usually, because we also don't want to introduce bacteria into a closed space, because it will proliferate, it will grow, it will multiply. You don't want to give somebody who have arthritis on top of that, an infectious arthritis is very, very, very difficult to treat. Very, very, very difficult, and can cause further damage to the cartilage and stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, caller. Thank you very much indeed. 435-2041. That's the number. Let's go back to a telephone. Doctor and call, good evening.
Yes, good night.
Yes, good evening, caller. Go ahead, please.
Just one quick question concerning the back. I want to find out what is really good for the back pain. As Doc said, sometimes you just have to move during the course of the day, it's better. What we could do to prevent that, or we have to just live with it till.
Okay, caller.
Right,
Thank you.
Don't go. How old are you?
I'm 29.
He's gone?
No, he said 29.
Okay, so he's relatively young. So that's still kind of young. And if I were having recurrent back pains at 29, I'm a young man, I'd be a little concerned. And I think you need to go figure out, why am I having pain? It could be related to your job. I don't know what you do. It could be related to you having had injury. Maybe one day, you don't even remember when you're a little boy, your mother sent you and bring some wood or something, you fall and hit your back on a stone. You don't remember all of these things. You know, it could be injury. You know how boys play. I'm not saying that's a situation. I'm saying it is important, first of all, for you to go try to see the specialist and figure out exactly what's going on with your back. Because 29 years is kind of relatively young. And then to make sure it's not one of the other things, because boys can have lupus too.
What is that?
I'm sorry?
He's asking what is that?
So lupus is a chronic disease that is related to your body having immunity to itself. So it has these substances that attack different organs. And one of the organs that is your whole musculoskeletal system, so you can have joint pains. It tends to happen more in women and a lot in black women, but it can happen in black men. It can happen in any man, right? It's just more prevalent. But I'm saying you can also have lupus. I'm not saying that you do, but I'm saying that's why you need to go to the doctor so we can go through all the differentials and figure out what exactly might be a problem. It might be related to your job, the way you sit, how you lift, how you bend, you know. So go see the doctor.
Okay, thank you very much, Doc.
Thank you very much, caller. Thank you very much. I think that's very important because there could be a number of reasons why you can have back pain. I know, for example, a very common one is the sciatica. It's something that you hear about a lot. So it's important to know.
Often sciatica means inflammation of the sciatic nerves. The sciatic nerves are two nerves that emerge from like in the middle of your buttock. They're really the side of your buttock, the side middle, and they come from the lower spine, right? Lumbar 5, S1 in that area. And this bundle of nerves come into this one big nerve that goes all the way down your leg, around your thigh, and down to the back and into your foot, right? Sciatic pain is the worst thing you can have because if your back gets stiff, but it starts with problems up in your lower back. So while you have pain down in your foot and your legs feel funny and a burning pain, you can't figure out exactly what this pain is.
The problem could be in the back.
The problem is really in the back. But you may have had injury, you may not have had injury, you may have a malformation. You may have something like spina bifida where the spine isn't properly closed. You know, I saw a young guy who was having pain. I'd never forget. This guy was about 19, 20. This is years ago, about like 20 years ago. And he came and was having pain. And he said he went to the doctor who sent him to the people that move you up and down. What do you call it? Chiropractor.
Yeah, chiropractor. Yes.
Right? Sent him to the chiropractor. Guess what? He said the pain was just too much. He just wanted a second opinion. Go do an X-ray, and he had a spina bifida where the whole of the vertebrae in the back is not fine. So your spinal column, that part of the central nervous system that has all the nerves, that cord of nerves going on your back, is actually part of it is actually exposed, and that is the reason why. So it is important that we figure out why is it happening.
Yes.
Right? I'm not saying you can't take Advil or 2 Advils or take something in the interim, right? And it might go away. But if your pain is recurring, 29 years old,
go check. Yes. Let's get back to the telephone. Doctor on call. Good evening.
Hi.
Yes. Good night, caller. Yes. Go ahead, please.
Yes. I wanted to ask a question, but Dr. Nixon is explaining the same question I want to ask. She is giving an explanation of the problem I am having. So I am happy to hear that she explaining, the situation, because that is the same problem I am having. A lot of burning in my legs, my hips and everything. And she given a little explanation. That was good.
Thank you.
And the C is good.
Thank you very
and
much.
the C is really good. The C gives that massaging of the soft tissue. So a lot of the inflammation in the soft tissue that causes pinching of the nerves and stuff is relieved. So learn to swim. A lot of us live on an island and can't swim. But just go in the water and walk up and down. It does help. But if you have that recurrent pain, listen, there's no need to suffer. There have enough doctors and x-ray around town to figure out what's going on.
Okay, let's go back to the telephone. Doctor and call, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, caller.
I just like the doctor to explain that for me. I just have a serious back pain, like lower part of my back, and every time I lie down, I get up, it's stiff. I sit down, when I get up, it's stiff, and it pains me a lot. I don't know if you could help me.
How old are you? No, don't go. How old are you?
I'm 66.
Oh, you sound like a teenager.
Yeah, I am surprised. I couldn't believe that.
You sound like I thought you were a teenager. So that's part of the aging thing. And like we said, aging, the cartilage will go, the bones will get closer, especially in the back. It's not a whole lot of cartilage, a little bit goes, the bones get closer. One of the things that happens, and lady, I hope she's listening, lady went before with the sciatica, one of the other things is that as the cartilage goes, the bone tries to make up, so you have little lips forming on these bones, okay? That closes the space even more and makes movement even a little more difficult. So if you've been having this pain for a long time, yes, again, think, did your grandmother have that kind of pain? Have you had any injury? Sometimes women have challenges. We've born children, so back went in all kind of way, you know? Your back, the bones in your back, sometimes they get separated a little to facilitate a pregnancy and other things. So there are a lot of stuff. If you're worried, go get an x-ray because sometimes it's not much, but you just don't know. You're 66, you're good. But go and a little exercise would not harm, okay? Do a little exercise every so often. Go walk for 10, 15 minutes every morning when you could go faster, but make sure you wear proper shoes. And of course, take something for the pain, put some heat if you can, rub if you can, because we have done the soft candle that I see in the supermarket again. It works. It helps ease inflammation around the joint, and you will feel a little better. But go get an x-ray if you're really concerned about it.
Thank you, caller. Thank you very much. Okay, we have time for one final call before we wrap. 42041. Let's take that call. Doctor and caller, good evening.
Good night.
Yes, good evening, caller.
I'd like to call with Dr. Question, please.
Yes, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I fell backwards and I knocked my back. I knocked my back, and right now I have a lot of pain.
How long ago was this?
This was Saturday.
Okay. So can you move? Can you move your lower limbs?
You have to move it.
Which part of your back did you hit? Which part of your back you hit? The closer down to the bottom, close up to the shoulder, or in the middle?
He hit the lower part of my back.
All right. But you can move your limbs and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And there's no pain that radiates down into your foot?
No.
The pain doesn't. So what have you done?
I fell backwards.
No, what have you done to relieve the pain?
I do, because after this, you have to go back to work.
Yeah, but what, John? You don't take 2 Panadol, you don't take an Advil,
No, I don't take nothing.
Yeah, but we don't need to suffer because there are things to help us. So Saturday is a long time. You probably could put a little heat on your back. And did you see any blood in your urine?
No.
Okay, so then that couldn't have been so bad. You don't have any pain up in your shoulder, do you?
No.
Or not up in your foot? Yeah, just take some for the pain, put some on the back, and wait for a few days and see what happens.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, caller. And let me just say this, folks, that if we're giving you information. Remember, the doctor cannot diagnose you on the program. You have to go visit the doctor. Right. And if you want to visit Dr. Nixon, she's upstairs, Bruce Street Mall. All right, so you can visit her there, and that way you can get a proper diagnosis and know exactly what is what. I mean, yes, you can get information here, which can help, but when you have a complication, you need to be examined. So you can visit Dr. Nixon at the Bruce Street Mall tomorrow, the next day, or definitely. All the time we have tonight. Quickly, let's just.
I'm glad you said, because one of the things you have to remind our audience, the people who listen to us and who are always here and who are curious, because I think people come to listen because they're curious, they want more information. The information that is given to you is to empower you to take action, to give you that will, that wanting to do something, because maybe that's a situation, but at least the information is so that you can be strong and you can take care of yourself. That is what this is about. This is not because we feel this is a do-all and end-all of it, okay? And I just want to make one more point in relation to why we want to take care of our arthritis. Simply because there's so many social things that happen, limited movements, limited interaction with our families, not being able to do our jobs and all the rest. So, and arthritis is so widespread in our communities. It's what we have most, right? What are the goals? The goals are to improve the symptoms, first of all. Like I just tell a gentleman, do something to fix the symptoms, right? If you have disease, if you already have disease, you want to delay it, you want to contain it, and you want to reverse it, you want to get back to normal. And of course, you really want to live above all, preserve your, improve, and preserve your quality of life. That's what it is all about. Arthritis can exist, but you can still live and still be very happy. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much indeed, Doc. It was indeed a pleasure. We look forward to next week. We're starting cancer awareness.
But yes, February in Grenada is Cancer Awareness Month. So Cancer Society is going to be working with the Ministry of Health and with Grenada Planned Parenthood. We want to look at women's cancer. Remember last year, there had a marathon of events with men's cancer, and I hope men have gone and got their prostate checked.
Done everything.
COVID makes us forget all the other things. People, stay awoke. Please remember that there are other things, and I say this a million times. At the beginning of this pandemic, the World Health Organization asked us to remember that COVID is plus one, is something on all other things we've had. All the other things we've had are still there. Let's not compound it. Being able to take care of ourselves means that we have better possibility of preventing disease, okay, and staying well, right? So even if we were to come in before the coronavirus, we don't have cancers and other diseases that can lead us to premature death. And in saying so, remember that Godfrey and I are not in the same space. That's why we're not wearing a mask tonight. Yeah, and you still need to wear a mask. You still need to stay away from people. You see this Omicron, you don't know who have it, but a lot of people do. And we don't know what it's going to cause us. We don't know what's going to happen to us if we get the Omicron virus. We may not get very ill, but I was reading an article this week that says there's a very high percentage of people who have Omicron who develop diabetes.
Yep. Also, wasn't there a study as to women and reproductivity?
Well, the women and reproductivity showed. I haven't seen the whole reproductivity one. What I know is that what they have is the period might be 1 day longer, but the whole reproductivity. This is only 2 years. You can't give that kind of data yet. Okay. And remember that most of the people who had the COVID were older populations, most likely out of the reproductive age. But I know that it does affect male sexuality and male sperm production because we've seen that.
Okay.
But COVID is real. Vaccines still work. Trust me on that one.
Definitely.
I can give you 20 names that you could go and ask them who've had vaccine, what we call had breakthrough infections, including my friend here, who survived feeling like, I feel tired for 2 days, and on the third day could have gone back to work. COVID is real.
It is.
And we don't want us to have disease that will make us have other diseases that we can't take care of. So I want to just remind you, this is just my loving duty to you to ask you, please, people, protect yourself. Have I had my vaccines? Of course I have.
Yes.
Am I afraid of vaccine? Of course I am. But hey, I still have a responsibility to be protecting my patients when they walk in and to be protected from my patients should they have COVID.
Yes.
And so we can all be here next year and the year after.
Doc, thank you so very much. Don't forget, folks, coming up on March 22nd and 29th, our big health forum. Look out for that. It's going to be really fantastic. All right, so we'll be having a host of experts. The forum will be hosted by myself and my dear friend here, Dr. Nixon. So you know it is going to be something really fantastic. We're looking at a collective approach. We have to take responsibility for our health. So get ready for that. It's a big one. It's coming March 22nd and 29th right here, GBN TV, K105, GBN's Facebook page, and GBN's YouTube channel. Be sure to join us for that. Thank you very much, everyone. Until tomorrow evening, we've got Release It at 8. It's our open line edition. Be sure to join me for that. We're talking about the low GDP, Imanis. Join me tomorrow at 8. We're going to talk about that. Have a good night, everyone. All the best.